We want biscuits. Folks, I can hear the chants and smell the Bojangles right now. The beauty and the pressure of getting North Carolina to 100 points is all part of being a walk-on for the Tar Heels. Who are those players that might put the Tar Heels over the century mark this season? We're about to tell you.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Wednesday, September 20th, 2023. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shea. Joining us today, as he does every Wednesday, right hump day, is our guy, Coach Pat Kilby, coming at us from the Oklahoma City area where they have just gotten through a big storm. Coach Pat Kilby still getting in here with us, although I think it's headed my way because I hear the thunder and lightning now. Let's get this in before my power goes. This is like twice in 3 weeks we've been under storm things, man. We gotta get this going. Today's episode is brought to you by Bird Dogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or enter promo code lockedoncollege for a free water bottle with any purchase. You won't want to take off your Bird Dogs. We promise you that. Folks, here's where we're headed today. We have finished the main part of our roster preview series. If you haven't listened to any of those, we've done a show on all 11 scholarship players. Yes, 11 different shows, 11 different players, one a week. You can go check out the playlist. We'll link it up there for you to check out. We went through both freshmen, Elliot, Cadeau, Zayden, the sophomores, Seth, Trimble, Jae'lyn Washington, the juniors, Harrison, Ingram, James Okonkwo, the only scholarship senior, RJ Davis, and the 4 grad students, Jae'lyn Withers, Paxson Wojcik, Cormac Ryan, and last week, Armando Bacot. But today, it is the walk-ons, these dudes that make the engine go for these teams, affectionately currently called the Biscuit Boys for North Carolina. Just to make sure we're all on the same page about why they're called that. And of course, if you're watching or listening to this, you probably know why they're called the Biscuit Boys. But Pac, would you get us into this by just reminding everyone where the term Biscuit Boys comes from and why that's a thing?
Yeah, so Bojangles kind of has this promotion that if Carolina cracks the 100-point mark, then people that were at the game can redeem their ticket for a biscuit the following day. And so
it's like 2 biscuits for $1, I think, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. And so the crowd is obviously huge fans of that. Who doesn't love some quality Bojangles? So their goal is to, root the Tar Heels on to 100-plus points. And typically, for us, this is why we've affectionately named our walk-ons the Biscuit Boys, because they're the ones that usually get us over that 100-point mark. And that's why I think Carolina has that relationships with their walk-ons maybe that other schools don't, is because they have the luxury of breaking the century mark for us.
It's so funny, Pat, because I think so many people think it's like, oh, we hit 100 points, we get free biscuits. They ain't free. You still got to pay for them. Also, do you have to have a ticket stub? I thought just anybody could go and say, like, I want the 100-point special and get it.
I don't know. Maybe the listeners know. I was thinking you had to have a ticket stub, but I could be wrong.
I've just never gone and actually done it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was thinking it was just anybody and everybody can go. Well, Carolina last year got this twice. They scored 102 against Charleston and exactly 100 against the Citadel. And so both of those home games hitting that Bojangles century mark. Now, Pat, before we get into actually talking about the Biscuit Boys, and that's what we want to do, last week, you all might recall that this has been plaguing my life since I did this because it bothers me when I get things wrong. I brought some bad data for us on Carolina's win and loss record during Armando Bacot's career. And so today, to make up for it, I've got some trivia for us. I did a deep dive on Carolina and its relationship with scoring 100 points. So here's how we're going to do this. Pac, I'm going to pose these questions to you, but everyone watching and listening along, you can play too. You can pause it and get your answer and then let it go and do it. So everyone else, get ready to play along with Pac as he tries to answer my biscuit trivia for us. Pac Kilby, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Here's question number 1. It's a little tricky. How many times did UNC score 100 points or more last season?
Once. I know they broke it against Charleston, but that's.
And I just said Citadel too, so there's 2 freebies for you. Are there any others?
No, I don't think so.
Wrong. The answer is 3. The other time they did it, it was not a Bojangles game because it wasn't at home. It was in Portland in 4 overtimes against Brandon Miller in Alabama.
Alabama, yeah.
Carolina scored, in losing that game, they still scored 101 points. How about that? I would have guessed 2 as well. I would have not remembered that they got to 100 points in that game, but it makes sense in 4 overtimes.
I erased that game from my memory.
As I hope we all did. That game plagues my very being. Okay, Pat, question number 2. I hope a lot of you are getting these right. Let us know in the comments and things like that if you got them right. When was the last season that North Carolina never scored 100 points in a single game that season?
Let's see here. 2020?
That's correct. The 2019-20 season, the year that the Cole Anthony year, Carolina's highest point scored was 96, and that was in the another game we want to forget, unfortunately, the overtime loss to Duke, where the Tar Heels scored 96. We're not doing so well with what these games were, unfortunately. These are not happy memories. All right, Pack. Next question. Great job on that one. Way to go. Since Roy Williams took over in 2003-2004 season, how many seasons has Carolina had in which they never reached 100? So we know it's at least one, the 2019-20 season. Basically, how many other seasons were there since Roy Williams took over that the Tar Heels never hit 100?
I don't know that there was one. I'm going to go ahead and add another one to that, so I'll say 2. I'm thinking maybe the 06 year, like right after we won the national championship, and then we, had Hansbrough and that young group.
His freshman year.
Yeah.
I would have guessed that's incorrect. I would have guessed 2 though as well, and done a similar thing, saying the 2009-10 season right after Hansbrough. But the answer is actually 1. The 2019-20 season is the only time since Roy Williams took over through the present in which the Tar Heels never reached 100. How about that?
Wow.
Crazy to think about, right?
We need to get back to
that. Yeah. Here are some happier ones. What is the highest number of games that Carolina scored 100 points in a single season? This is all time in Carolina history. The number of games.
So what is the most that we've had in a season? Most 100-point games in a season?
Correct. Exactly.
I'm going to say, let's go 7.
Oh, that's low. It's actually 10. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And it was in another national championship season, the 92-93 season. Carolina got to 100 points 10 times that year. How about that stuff?
Wow.
Here's an interesting one. A little bit different, but kind of similar. What is the longest consecutive streak of getting to 100 points in a game? Carolina history again.
Let's say 4. Let's go 4 games.
Yeah. Spot on, dude. And they did it twice. Carolina has scored 100 points 4 games in a row in their history twice. The first time was the 1985-86 season, and then again in 1988-89. So crazy stuff there, and it happened within a span of 4 seasons. All right, Pack, here's the next one. In Carolina history, what is the most points they've ever scored in a single game? Obviously, it's over 100.
Yeah. God, the most I can recall, was like 100, and this is not counting exhibitions. These are real.
No, correct.
Okay.
Only regular season or postseason games.
I'm going to say 113.
You are low, my friend. It is 129.
Oh, wow.
Which Carolina did twice. The first of which, it makes a ton of sense. The first of which was against Manhattan on December 27th, 1985. I was just short of my first birthday. The Tar Heels beat Manhattan 129-45. Yikes. And then the more recent example was against VMI, which makes a ton of sense. It's when they were scoring 8 million points. VMI, that was December 17th of 94. Carolina beat VMI 129-89. In total, by the way, the Tar Heels have reached the 120s 9 times in Carolina history. That's pretty wild stuff. All right, Pac, 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
Now, that was the highest point total ever in Carolina history. Let's limit it to the beginning of the Roy Williams era through the present. So from when Roy Williams took over in 03-04, what is the most points Carolina has scored in a game?
Okay, so that's kind of where I was going with my previous answer. If I remember right, when Skip Prosser was at Wake Forest, there was a game where Carolina hit like 113 or somewhere in that ballpark.
It was, I think that was in the Chris Paul era, right? It was actually at Wake Forest at Joel Coliseum there. But no, they actually got a little bit higher than that twice, 116. One of them happened in against UNC Asheville, November 30th of 2008. It was a 116-48 victory. And if I remember correctly, that was when UNC Asheville had that like massive dude on their team and Hansbrough dunked all over him.
Yeah, Kenny George was that big guy's name.
Yes, great pull. I'm pretty sure that was that game. By the way, the 08-09 team got to 100 points 9 times that season. Pretty wild stuff. And then the other one was at Elon. So this was an away game. Carolina scored 116 back on November 9th, 2018, 116-67. That might have been when the Tar Heels started at Wofford and then at Elon, if I'm remembering that correctly. I'm pretty sure they did because I remember people making a big deal about 2 true road games to start the season. All right, final question, Pac. How many times did North Carolina reach 100 points in the Tyler Hansbrough era? So in that 4 years, how many times did the Tar Heels score 100 or more?
Let's say, well, I know 1 year was 9. That was
I just told you that.
The year before was a really good year, so I would say they hit it 5 or 6 times. Let's say 21. I think
that's a great guess. It's just shy, actually. 25 times Tyler Hansbrough era team scored 100 points. And what's crazy is they only did it once his freshman year, and then 7 times his sophomore year, 8 times his junior year, and then, as we just said, 9 times his senior year. So in just 3 years, his final 3 years, Carolina hit 124 times. Pat Kilby, that is absolutely awesome and mind-boggling to think about. Great stuff there. Just thought that'd be a fun way to start today's show and to make up for my poor researching capability last week about something infinitely easier. And so hope you all enjoyed that. I love getting into some trivia sometimes. I've actually thought about we might need to do some trivia shows in the summers, like have guests on, and I think that'd be fun, right? If you would enjoy that, let us know. We'd love to dive into that. Anyway, we need to get into our Biscuit Boys, talking about these dudes, who they are, and what they bring to the table. We'll get there in just a second. But first, I need to tell you that this episode of Locked on Tar Heels is brought to you by our friends at Bird Dogs. Listen, I'm super excited to be in fall now and actually finally able to wear pants like my favorite new Bird Dog pants. These things are seriously insanely comfortable, and I'd encourage you to get your own pair. The Bird Dog stretch khaki shorts, they're designed to fit slimmer on you, giving you a sculpted look. They fit so much better than regular shorts that are made of stiff, restricting cotton. Bird Dogs fixed this issue by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but it stretches to give you a way slimmer fit without having to restrict movement. Probably my favorite thing is that Bird Dogs uses anti-stink, sweat-wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. So go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege or enter promo code lockedoncollege at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. How rad is that? That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for a free water bottle at checkout. You won't want to take off your Bird Dogs. We promise you that. Folks, it keeps on rolling this Friday. Locked On College Football kickoff live 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College YouTube channel. Make sure you tune in to get ready for this weekend's college football action. You know those Tar Heels are going to be 4-0 after they roll up to Pitt on Saturday, or at least our fingers are crossed on it. So, Pack, let's get into this year's crop of Biscuit Boys. Would you tell us all about these young men that are part of the Biscuit Boys this year?
You bet. Yeah. So the first one is son of Coach Jeff Lebo. And get this, Creighton is actually his middle name.
Dude, I'm a middle namer. Let's go.
Brian Creighton Lebo.
Yes.
He is a senior this year. He's a guard. He's from Greenville, North Carolina, which, if you didn't know, his dad, Jeff, was the head coach at East Carolina for 7 or 8 seasons there. And so it makes sense for him to be from Greenville. Height, 6'1", weight 180. Jersey number 14. Twitter handle, @Lebo Creighton. And Instagram handle is Creighton_Lebo. So next we got my guy Duwe with a sick and kind of old-fashioned.
I love this middle name, man. It's great.
Duwe Gallagher Farris. Grad. He's a grad senior, a forward from Charlotte, North Carolina, 6'7", 210 pounds. Jersey number 34, just like Shaq. He's dominant down low. Twitter handle @Duwe Farris, DUWE, and Instagram handle Duwe Farris.
That's what we love, Pack. That's what we love.
I'll clap for that. Next, we've got Rob Morris Landry, senior. He's a guard from Greensboro, North Carolina, 6'4", 190 pounds. I did not realize he was 6'4". He doesn't look like that, does he?
No. Same. Agreed.
So he is jersey number 22, which was a change from 15. He does not have Twitter that we know of, and Instagram handle is Rob Landry 15. Rob Landry.
Honestly, it's probably for the best to not have Twitter. The older I get, Pack, the more I'm like, dude, I got to give up on social media. It just drains time out of your life. Anyway, I love. It's so cool for both Creighton and for Rob, whose dads both played at North Carolina and are now this year both able to wear their dad's jerseys numbers. For Creighton, as you talked about, moving into wearing number 14, he was 25. But Jeff, his dad, who we just talked about, wore 14. That was Puff's number. Obviously, Puff transferred out to Penn State. And so now Creighton can rock 14. Same for Rob. His dad was 22. Obviously, that was Justin McCoy's number. Justin McCoy is now hanging out in Hawaii. What a dude. And so thank you for that hang loose, Pack. I love it. And so now Rob's able to get number 22. Pretty cool stuff there. So, Pack, you just introduced us to these 3 guys that are the Biscuit Boys this year. Typically as we get towards the beginning of practice, we learn that there's going to be somebody added to the walk-on group. I got to imagine that's going to be true again this year, especially because there's only 11 scholarship players and then only these 3 guys. So you've only got 14 total dudes on your varsity roster right now. Pack, you putting on your coach hat, is that enough to do everything you need to do at a practice, or do you think Coach Davis will add more here?
I expect he'll add at least one more to make 15, which will give you 3 teams of 5 for competitive purposes. I did see the other day that they were having a JV meeting, and a lot of times that's kind of where they'll pull from. If they get a guy that comes in there and works his tail off and stands out amongst the Carolina basketball JV team, then he might get that call up to the big show, and so I could see that happening. I also just want to throw it out there. There was that picture of Bo May sitting with the basketball team at the football game Saturday, so maybe there's a chance.
I actually saw him sitting by himself after everyone else had already left.
Yeah. So maybe there's a chance.
I don't see that happening. From what it sounds like from snippets I've heard, it sounds like Bo and his lingering knee issues, it's just too much, and he's pulling out.
Yeah, I agree with that. Maybe I was just being hopeful because I love having the May family around, and
agreed.
They happen to be pretty good for Carolina athletics.
That's right. Yeah, Drake did all right for himself on Saturday, I'd say. Yeah, Pack, I'm right with you. I think, looking back at last year's roster and the year before that, so Coach Davis's first 2 years, there have been 4 or 5 walk-ons on both of those rosters. And so I fully expect both, just given that, history, and given what you said about needing it, you want at least 3 full units. And then as you go through the season and guys are nicked up and banged up, you just need bodies to be able to do things, to be able to play. We'll talk some more about the roles of these walk-ons in a little bit. Now, Pat, here's another question. I mentioned that there are only 11 scholarship level players right now. I'll put it that way, meaning that there's only 11 scholarships given out. Teams are allotted 13. So there are 2 more to hand out. Now, it's a little bit of an awkward situation because right now there's only 3 dudes. And if 2 of them get that, you got one of them out there like, where's my scholarship, coach? Literally everyone else on the team has one but me. But it just seems to make sense that at some point, Coach Davis is going to award these 2 remaining scholarships to 2 of these walk-ons. Do you foresee that happening? And anything that you as a coach would use to help in making such a determination as to who you would give it to?
Well, a couple things come to mind. I think, first of all, I wouldn't be surprised to see him use those 2 scholarships on 2 of the Biscuit Boys. It makes sense, even if it's just for the upcoming year, just that 1 year. And then if we need to use that on an actual scholarship level player, then we can do so. But then, you're looking at things, as far as work ethic and leadership and investment and all of those things to kind of discern who deserves those scholarships and who doesn't. I happen to kind of know a little bit about 2 of these guys just through how well I know Brady, and he speaks super highly of them. I can't speak to Creighton, but I think we all know he's a hardworking guy. He's a coach's kid. He's a high IQ. All 3 of these guys are talented. You look at their high school stuff, and they're good. They're good. So they're just not Carolina good, like to play, but they're still really quality players. And so I think that would be really hard to discern. But then I also look at it kind of logistically, and I don't know really how this works or the background of all 3 of the players, but I do happen to know that Jeff Lebo coaches at the University of North Carolina. And I don't know if that means that he gets some tuition off or anything like that. So if that were to work out, then maybe the other 2 are natural promotions into that scholarship role or something like that. I don't know the answers to those things, but I do think that all 3 of these guys are deserving of that opportunity to be on scholarship.
Yeah. I think that's all really well said, Pac. They, at some level, it's very much a merit based on like, this dude's just been around plugging away and doing it. And that's true for all 3 of them. I mean, Creighton's been here all 4 years of his college career, but at some level, there's also kind of a need-based thing. And so if, one of them is like, just financially, they just don't need it because their parents are in such a good shape, that might play into it. Although KJ Smith got a scholarship, and clearly the baby Jet didn't need one from a financial standpoint. So I think his daddy has done okay for himself in his career. So, and Pac, you mentioned it too about while these guys are not high major D1 level basketball players, their high school accolades speak for themselves. And so folks, do not miss that these are not some scrubs. If average Joe basketball player like myself, who's 5'11" and can barely touch the net when I jump, like I would get creamed by these dudes. Now, Pac's a little bit of a different story because he's an actual basketball player who's like 6'39" and actually hangs out and plays with the young men on his team and is really good at basketball. So Pac might be able to hold his own against the Biscuit Boys, but I certainly could not. And so if you're out there thinking, oh yeah, I could go walk on at Carolina, I want you to think again, because these dudes can straight ball. Now, Pac, I want to ask you here in just a second a little bit about why we have maybe seen less of the walk-ons in the Hubert Davis era thus far, and then some general questions about what exactly it is they aid a team, because most people only get to see them cheering on the bench or sitting on the bench and don't get to see all the behind the scenes about what they bring in practice. So we want to have that conversation, and we'll do it in just a second. But first, I need to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Hey, what would happen if you found yourself cut off from modern medical care and treatment? I'm guessing you wouldn't be prepared. What would happen right now if this storm that's going on outside my window came crashing through, left me without power or access to medical care? Well, honestly, for me, life is just so insanely busy that I also don't have time to schedule things like doctor's appointments. I just need it quick and fast. And so if any of those apply to you, you need the Jace case from Jace Medical, which provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. And all it takes to get one of these Jace cases is you fill out a simple online form. Then you get prescription life-saving medications delivered right to your door. I love it because the Jace case gives you peace of mind so that you're not just hoping you have access to medication in an emergency. Jace case makes sure you have the medication directly in your hands. So save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout on jacemedical.com. Once again, that's JASEmedical.com. Doctor created, doctor recommended. That's Jace Medical. So, Pat, we recognize that in the past couple years under Coach Hubert Davis, we just haven't seen these dudes get the opportunity to be on the floor either at the end of games or even in the midst of games as often as perhaps we did under Coach Williams. I'd just like for us to have a little bit of a conversation about why that might be.
Well, a couple reasons. Number one, we just haven't been quite as dominant as we need to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the Roy era.
Or also not getting blown out. That's a good thing, too, because sometimes you see them on the losing end of things.
True. Yeah, absolutely. But it was kind of like what we talked about in the Roy Williams era. You mentioned earlier, all the times that we hit 100-plus points, we were running teams out of the gym. And that was a great opportunity for the Biscuit Boys to finish out the game strong, you know, the last 2-3 minutes of the game.
Of course, it would have been like Blue Steel in that era, not Biscuit Boys.
Yes, yeah, the real Blue Steel. But, you know, we just haven't been as dominant lately. And I think that's a big part of it. But I also remember, and I think everyone else remembers too, because we've called for this a couple times over the last couple seasons.
Yeah, we have.
When Roy Williams would just hockey sub 5 walk-ons into the game because he was so fired up with the product that was being put on the floor by the guys that typically played. And, yeah, I would sure love to see Hubert do that. I kind of missed that, honestly. It was, side note, it was just amazing to me how the walk-ons would go in there and never lose their time on the floor. Like they would get 5 minutes on the floor and be +2, you know.
Yeah.
How is this happening? And our starters are getting their tails kicked. But
I was going to say, meanwhile, Roy's not even watching the game. He's literally got his back to the court, chewing out the starters, and I love it.
Yeah, exactly. It almost always paid off for us. And so, anyways, I think
the crowd loved it too. I think that plays a huge role.
Yeah, well,
behind it.
I think that we loved it because we could see him actually doing his job and holding them accountable.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that Hubert doesn't do that, but it was a live action shot of Coach Williams holding the team accountable when they needed to be.
That's right.
Who doesn't love that? It's awesome. And
that's the coach putting his money where his mouth is, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And
yeah. So, Pac, then what, as I said just a minute ago, you know, we don't so often get to see these guys participating in this way. What you know, the majority of what they bring, the value that they bring to a program is in practice and the things they do there. What are the things these guys are doing that the common Joe sports fan just doesn't get to see?
Well, it kind of goes back to what you mentioned earlier. You know, we've got to have extra bodies. We get 13 scholarships. We need extra guys in practice that can get in there and still be solid players, still be competitive, and work to make us better as a team. And they get all of the hard work that comes with being a Division I basketball player and none of the glory for it. They have to
Sounds like something to sign up for.
Yeah, they have to go to study hall. They have to go to weights. They have to go to practice. They have to go to film, just like the scholarship players do. And they don't get anything for it other than the reward and the satisfaction of being good teammates and being a part of Carolina basketball, which is what they truly want to do and what they love.
Because then for life, you can say, I am a North Carolina Tar Heels basketball player.
Exactly, which means something. You know, it carries a lot of weight. And these guys work hard and they bring great energy in practice. They do, they work hard. They make players better. And they bring a lot to the table that when we're playing on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday nights that you guys, don't necessarily see through the TV screen, but they are the ones that are preparing us in practice to make sure we're ready to get a W whenever we're playing those games on those nights. And so,
and you see how much the scholarship guys respect them. They are not scrubs. They're not separate. Man, we are one family. We're one team, and every one of those dudes is included in that.
Absolutely.
Well, Pac, great conversation about all the Biscuit Boys today. As we've done with every roster preview episode, I want to end with an over-under, and thought it would be fun today by putting our over-under this way. How many times is Carolina going to hit that Bojangles promo this year? I'm going to set the over-under at 2.5 times. Remember, last year they hit 103 times, but only 2 of them were regulation home games where the Bojangles thing hit. So, Pac, 2.5 times. What say you, good sir?
I say we're going to hit the over. I think we're going to hit 100 mark 4 times. I just think a faster pace, better players, better shooting. I think it's going to bode well for our offense.
Yep, I agree. The thing that does give me hesitation is I don't know that I believe the faster tempo till I see it. I do think it's going to happen, and I expect it to happen, but crazier things have not. Like this time last year, Coach Davis was saying he was going to play his bench more. You know what I mean? So, but then also just as we expand to a 20-team conference slate, 20-game conference slate, I should say, and man, that non-conference schedule's tough. There are not a ton of kind of bye games in which you can really look at getting to 100. And so you might be able to get 2 or 3 of those and have to get it from somewhere else. But I'm still going to take the over, but I'm only going to put it at 3. Would love to be proven wrong on that. And I hope that you are wrong too. I hope it's even more than 4, but we'll wait to see. Man, so fun talking about the Biscuit Boys. So grateful for these men and what they mean to the program, what they bring to the program. And so, folks, if you ever happen upon Creighton or Rob or Dewey, please make sure to thank them for everything they do to make Carolina basketball what it is, because they are absolutely part of the DNA of what makes Carolina basketball Carolina basketball. All right, folks, that's it for today's episode of Locked On Tar Heels. Big thanks to Pac, as always, for joining us. Thankfully, the storm did not interrupt our recording, Pac, as great news. You can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Heels. You can follow Pac at Coach_K23, or you can follow me at Isaac Shade. Email the show, lockedontarheels@gmail.com. We'd love to have more in-depth conversation with you. Cannot wait to see also what thoughts you left on the trivia questions in the comments, and we can interact with all that. Don't forget to subscribe, smash the like button, and leave any other comments on the show. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, but until then, peace.